A Cambodian Survivor's Odyssey by Vannath. Chapter 7. Return to Cambodia. The United Nations Transitional Authority in Cambodia, UNTAC to be short. I joined UNTAC in mid-1992. At 49 years old, I feel unprepared to leave Oregon and my son, who will stay in Oregon to complete his studies at university. But I allow my destiny to take the lead. After living, working, and struggling for more than 11 years in Oregon, I have become quite attached to the place and its people. I have many close friends and colleagues who are very supportive. But life goes on. I fly from Oregon to Bangkok, Thailand, where a military cargo plane brings us to Phnom Penh. Without having to go through customs, a United Nations van transports us directly from the plane to the assigned hotel, where I stay for a few days. I later stay with Sarah Newhall, an Oregonian working in Cambodia, before moving to more permanent housing. The United Nations issued me a United Nations laissez-passer, a passport of light blue, numbered 32587. It includes my picture and other identification information. The laissez-passer states in 6 different languages. The Secretary General of the United Nations requests all those whom it may concern to extend to the bearer the courtesies, facilities, privileges, and immunities which pertain to his or her office, and to facilitate by all suitable means the journey and mission on which he or she is engaged. UNTAC's main mission included maintaining peace and organizing the elections for a new democratic government of Cambodia. My work at UNTAC included providing both translation and interpretation. Within our unit, we have Cambodians from France, the US, and Japan, who are fluent in Khmer, French, English, and Japanese. We provide simultaneous interpretation for multiple working groups between the Supreme National Council and the United Nations officials. We develop a legal glossary, translate and proofread legal manuscripts, such as constitutional documents, UNTAC electoral law, manuals, forms, electoral regulations for human rights documents, and politically sensitive television and radio scripts. It is quite a challenge to interpret from English to the Khmer language, especially to do simultaneous interpretation. For example, the term for Cambodian people has 3 different Khmer translations to identify the different political ideologies: one for the communists, one for the republic, and one for the royalist parties. Also, the word "you" in English has different words in the Khmer language to properly address royalty, Buddhist monks, different genders, etc. It is impossible to interpret word for word in Khmer many of the concepts from the West. The concepts have to be explained. While it takes time to interpret, we have to go as fast as possible to keep up with the English speakers. Prior to the May 1993 election, I was assigned to provide interpretation to Yasushi Akashi, the Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General for Cambodia. Normally, Akashi has his own interpreter, but they assigned me because of my knowledge of the special Khmer language needed to address to Buddhist monks. Akashi met with 2 Supreme Patriarchs, De Wong and Bua Kri, and other monk dignitaries in an attempt to elicit their support and blessings. Also, as part of our duties, we fly by helicopter to the western border of Cambodia, to the provinces of Bon Tie Minh Chey and Udor Minh Chey, to provide a training course on immigration procedures and border control to the Cambodian Border Police. Our group has 3 Americans, 1 Australian, 1 Canadian, 1 Russian, and 1 German. The helicopter has to fly high in the middle of Tonle Sap Lake to avoid any Khmer Rouge anti-aircraft attacks. The political tension during this time is almost palpable. The Democratic Kampuchea Party of the Khmer Rouge has boycotted the elections and is determined to disrupt them. The Khmer Rouge has begun to show its animosity towards the UNTAC peacekeeping forces with sporadic attacks on the United Nations cars, personnel, and camps. For safety reasons, our team stays overnight in Aranyaprathet, Thailand, and drives into Cambodia during the day for the training. But when we are at Ompol camp in Udom province, it is too far away from the Thai border to go back and forth. So we end up staying overnight in the UNTAC barracks, where the United Front for an Independent, Neutral, Peaceful, and Cooperative Cambodia faction and Khmer Rouge soldiers live side by side. Our translation team on this mission, and in general, was recognized for our professionalism, expertise, and commitment. Following are quotes from some letters of appreciation. These missions proved to be a conspicuously successful initiative and brought new focus and impetus to UNTAC's efforts to assert control at the central and provincial levels. I wish to extend to you my personal appreciation for the important role you played in these missions and making a positive contribution to the success of the control team. On behalf of the organizers of the Seminar on the Constitution, I write to express our appreciation for your invaluable contribution to the success of the program. This was the first time, so far as we are aware, that simultaneous interpretation in 3 languages, Khmer, English, and French, has been attempted. Your own expertise and your commitment to the task over the long hours of debate was recognized by all the participants. The assistance of both Ms. Renee Pan and Ms. Vannath Chea went beyond the classroom interpretation. They worked with my staff before the meeting in order to prepare adequately for the technical vocabulary. They also offered assistance during the meeting, such as clarifying points to the class or suggesting techniques to keep the class motivated. These extra efforts on their part added significantly to the quality of our program. Please convey to Ms. Pan and Ms. Chea our sincere appreciation for their outstanding work. Finally, from 23 to 28 May 1993, Cambodian people courageously go to vote in the rain, under circumstances that include intimidation and harassment, to express their political will and aspirations. People have been threatened with stories that planes, computers, and satellites can see how they cast their votes, so people are afraid, but they vote. Against all odds, at the age of 81, my mother also goes to vote, excited and delighted about the experience. On 14 June 1993, the Constituent Assembly is open in the presence of its 120 members and declares Prince Norodom Sihanouk as the head of state of Cambodia. I have the privilege of providing interpretation to Akashi at this historical event. In September 1993, the National Assembly voted to restore the monarchy, and Prince Sihanouk once again becomes king. After the completion of the UNTAC missioning 1994, I started to work for the Asia Foundation Cambodia, an international non-governmental organization focusing on strengthening governance, building democracy, and enhancing opportunities for growth and development. Working at the Asia Foundation allows me to become involved in a variety of local and international organizational networks. I develop an in-depth understanding of the social issues facing Cambodia and its people. Emergence of civil society. The presence of UNTAC in the early 1990s is a catalyst in the birth of non-governmental organizations in Cambodia. The early non-governmental organizations focus on mass civic education, democracy, and human rights in preparation for the 1993 national elections. Key factors in the changing social-political context that support the early growth of a civil society included the growing number of newspapers and other media, increased freedom of expression, and the emergence of a political opposition party and its voice within the National Assembly. Women are also organizing themselves and striving to make their voices heard, both socially and politically. Within the religious and cultural arena, wisdom is offered by increasingly outspoken monks and preachers. Large numbers of peace-oriented organizations and people participate in peace marches, which positively affects the mental and spiritual fabric of the country. In dealing with the emotional and psychological scars left by so many years of war, many ordinary Cambodians returned to the faith that had been brutally destroyed under the Khmer Rouge regime. The practice of Buddhism was entirely interrupted. More than 60,000 monks that inhabited monasteries were defrocked. Many Westerners perceive Buddhism as a doctrine of acceptance, which effectively hampers social change. A noted Khmer Buddhist monk, U Hut Khemajarao, explains that Khmer Buddhism, in particular, arising as it did from an agrarian society that places high value on the patron-client relationship and harmony, has provided a strong disincentive among monks and the wider population to challenge the social order. Yet, despite these cultural constraints, he goes on to argue that the practice of the Dhamma, teachings of the Buddha, could lead to social action. One practical example of this is the Dhammayatra, or annual march, which began in 1992. This peace march sees thousands of refugees who have been living in camps along the Thai-Cambodian border return to their homeland as the march travels for more than 400 kilometers to Phnom Penh. The spiritual leader of the pilgrimages, Mahagosananda, who is nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, also argues that reconciliation does not mean that we surrender our rights and conditions, but instead that we use love and compassion to address these questions. I have the opportunity to join the Peace March too. I witnessed the long lines of thousands of monks in bright saffron robes and people from everywhere sitting down along the road to receive blessings with holy water from Mahagosananda and his disciples. Some soldiers and police in uniform jump off their bikes or out of cars and respectfully kneel along the road waiting to be blessed. This image makes me think that despite the appearance of their armed forces uniforms, deep down in their hearts, they come to look for peace. Despite its violence in the killing fields, the Khmer Rouge failed to abolish Buddhism in Cambodia. Although physically damaged and destroyed, the Wat structures re-emerge at the grassroots level through survivors armed with Dhamma to lead the healing and rehabilitation of the country. The number of monks has multiplied, but Venerable U Hut argues that the quality is more important than the number. He states that they should be seriously studying the Pali scriptures, practicing mindful meditation, and developing an impassioned understanding of social, political, and economic realities. In that political and social situation, some Buddhist monks find themselves in a position of unease, being human rights activists fighting for social justice versus the traditional figure of spiritual monks who isolate themselves from social affairs. U Hut emphasizes the importance of monastics practicing meditation as a key to the recovery of a wholesome alternative. The foundation of mindfulness and clear comprehension cultivate wisdom and compassion. Without wisdom and compassion, including towards our enemies, who are but the victim of delusions, we cannot be true peacemakers. Mahagosananda teaches that true peacemaking is a balance between wisdom and compassion, meeting humanitarian needs, dealing with political and other forms of dogmatism, and acting for peace without concession or appeasement requires striking such a balance. In the early 1990s, despite efforts to promote a culture of peace and nonviolence, the remnants of post-war violence still widely reflects on the day-to-day aspects of life in the community. People shoot guns when it rains, or if there is fire. Almost every night, I hear the sound of guns firing here and there. For any conflict, such as minor traffic incidents or dogs barking at night, people tend to use guns to solve their frustration. In one instance during that time, a tycoon put his gun out and shot the tires of a Royal Air Cambodia plane because he was upset about the services it provided. When I go to restaurants, I commonly see people showing their status by displaying guns, rifles, and hand grenades on the tables. Thieves and robbers are beaten to death or electrocuted in the houses where they went to steal, especially at night. Mob rule is widespread. Respect for human rights is just a vain hope for the people.